4:15 on May 7th, 2014. So I'd like to commence the May 7th, 2014 meeting of the Revere Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda is roll call. Member Daniel Bluestein.
Here.
Member Joseph Lavallee.
Here.
Member Vincent Camerata.
Here.
Vice Chair Joseph James.
Here.
Member Ann Raponi.
Here.
And I'm Andrew DeSantis, Chairman of the Commission. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of March 5th, 2015.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, 2014. That's what I meant. And that was a motion by Member Lavallee.
Yep.
And second by Member Camerata.
That's right, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a notice of intent for DEP file 0610646, 197 Rice Avenue, in addition to an existing family home, garage, and front porch construction. Mary Ellen Martin, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative unanimously. Hi. Hi. If you press the, I think it's on because I can see the green, I'm not sure.
Hello. I think it's on.
It's on, correct. Okay, introduce yourself, name and address, please.
My name is Elle Baker. I live at 369 Rice Avenue, Revere. I'm representing my mother, Mary Ellen Martin, 59 Witherby.
What's your address again?
369 Rice Avenue, Revere.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Okay, just explain what your proposal is.
The proposal is to build a second story on an existing structure. It will still remain a single-family home, going up within the limits, and building a front porch and also a two-car garage. We have already gone through the process of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it has been approved.
Questions for Ms. Baker?
You do realize that you have to, on that garage, you can have flow-throughs so the water can go in and out?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been included in the plan.
Member Bluestein?
I just have a question. I was at the site on Saturday, and we looked at the driveway, and on the plans it says there's a proposed driveway. Are you planning to do any additional paving for that driveway into the garage?
I'm not sure at this time.
Okay.
Do you have a recommendation for that?
I mean, since it is in a flood zone, we just recommend using impermeable paving, either pavers or permeable concrete or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, typically in our order of conditions, we specify any additional new paving be of a permeable type. It can either be porous asphalt, permeable cement concrete, or pavers.
Okay, that's agreeable.
And the flow-throughs would also be in the order for the garage portion of the building.
Absolutely.
And my understanding is you're building the front porch on piers, and not to enclose the front porch with solid material. You could have screening, you could have lattice work, anything like that. So any water that comes in the area is able to flow through there if you get high water.
Correct.
Anything else? I'd like to welcome member James Saboni to the meeting.
So I guess if they're not planning to change, if they're leaving the pavement in place, are we allowing, I mean, they can leave it as is, but if they're tearing up that pavement,
Yeah,
they
that's
have to replace it?
typically what we do, Daniel.
Sure. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yep. Any further questions? I have a motion to close the public hearing. I've written an order. It's pretty much a standard order, and it has the conditions in that I alluded to. Motion by member Camerata,
I'll second it.
seconded by Vice Chair Joseph James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll sign it tonight, and then I've got to copy it, and I'll send the originals to your mother.
Okay.
And you have 10 days to of a waiting period before you could actually start construction.
Okay. 10 days from today?
10 days from today on the improvements, as far as if you're doing any work on the existing building, I don't have an issue with starting to change out windows, stuff like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Signature, Ben? Next item on the agenda is 17 Noble. Rick Salvo, the engineer, had texted me that he'd be late. Do you know if he's still coming, Darrell?
Yeah, he's coming.
Okay, so we'll hold that until we take up the other items until Rick shows up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Item following that is a request for determination of applicability, demolition of the cove at 565 Revere Street by 571 Revere Street, LLC. I don't see any. Are you here to represent? You're here for Gibbs?
Yes.
Yeah. For
The Hess Corporation.
Hess Corporation, yes. Yeah, it used to be Gibbs.
Correct.
All right, so we'll hold off on the RDA and we'll hold off on the next one, certificate of compliance. Steve Moderato, I know he's coming. And why don't we take up the request for a minor amendment for DEP file 0610650, the Hess gas station, 630 Squire Road.
Can we talk about the RDA later? Is that
Yes,
without
yeah.
them here? Okay.
Yeah.
I just have a couple questions.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so state your name, and I can't tell if that's on, if it's lit green at the bottom or not. Or at the top, wherever it is. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
And for the record, Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, 352 Turnpike Road in Southborough, Mass. Basically here for, as advertised, a minor amendment to a previous order of conditions that was granted to the existing Hess facility located at 630 Squire Road. Basically, about a year and a half ago, we had received an order from this commission to do some improvements to that facility, and the improvements basically entailed the removal of the underground storage tanks that are on site today and some modifications to the existing fuel dispensing equipment, basically Hess is going to come in, remove all the existing islands, the dispensers, the piping, the underground storage tanks, and replace them with new double-wall fiberglass underground storage tanks, new piping, and replace basically the islands and dispensers that are there with new equipment, but in the exact same location. So it's really just a maintenance upgrade. If you're not familiar, there are some federal regulations that are going to take place in the Commonwealth as of August 2017 that require all single-wall storage tanks to be removed from locations within the state of Mass. This is one of those locations where Hess still has single-wall tanks. And what Hess is doing is this is basically a preemptive move on their part so that they're not scrambling at the 11th hour to take out these tanks at a bunch of locations. So they're doing it now basically at about 10 locations a year. After the initial order of conditions was received, basically we had gotten word or additional feedback from your engineering department that the city of Revere is under a DEP consent order to upgrade its stormwater management system. They have some deficiencies according to the state, and as a result, the engineering department took another look at the site and said, we want you to do some improvements to the stormwater drainage exiting the property. Now, basically, the way the site drains right now is everything sheet flows across the pavement into a series of 3 catch basins that basically sit directly over a culvert that conveys the town line brook from one side of the site to the other. And under the original plan, we were basically looking to maintain that. We're not adding any pavement, we're not changing the drainage patterns, and we were told initially that maintaining the same drainage pattern was okay. Subsequent to the order of conditions being granted, again, it was determined that we needed to make some improvements to the stormwater management system, and we've spent the better part of the last 18 months working with the city to come up with a plan that we felt addressed the stormwater quality issues that the city is under that consent order to fix. Initially, we looked at making some improvements to the catch basins directly over the town line brook, but no one could ultimately determine who owns that culvert. It wasn't the city of Revere. The state of Massachusetts was saying they didn't own it. The DCR was saying they didn't own it. So we spent about 8 months going back and forth trying to figure it out until we finally said we've got to build a better mousetrap. So what we've decided to do is we've put a trench drain basically along the western edge of the property. And that's going to collect all the runoff that is generated from the site. It's going to convey it into a Vortechnic stormwater quality unit and then basically discharge it into a catch basin located within Squire Road. That catch basin then ultimately takes the treated runoff back to the town line brook. So it's still going to the exact same place it was going to previously. Only difference now is it's being pre-treated prior to being discharged. We've worked with Nick Rystrom in the engineering department for the past 6 months, and as of about a week and a half ago, we received an approval from his office where he has signed off on the design of the stormwater management system as currently proposed and as provided to you in the plans that were submitted. So really, as indicated, we're back to just get a minor amendment to that previous order of conditions because we haven't really changed anything as far as the stormwater management goes other than you're now getting cleaner, quote-unquote, stormwater runoff with this new design. We still would have to get approval from Mass DOT as well, which is our last step in the process, but we've had preliminary conversations with them, and we don't envision any issues there either. With that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions the Commission has.
Mr. Chairman?
I just got one question first. Could you give me your name again? I didn't get that.
Sure, it's Lucien, Lucien, DiStefano, DISTEFANO.
And you're with Bowler.
Bowler Engineering, correct.
Okay. All right, Member LaValle.
Could you elaborate on that vortex system? I'm not familiar with it.
Sure. Basically, it's a structural BMP. It's designed to remove total suspended solids. You do also get a bit of hydrocarbon removal with these units, but primarily it's for TSS removal. In general, it was previously determined that they could give you the 80% removal rates, but I think that's since come down a little bit. But again, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make improvements to what's on site. From what I understand of the consent decree that the city is under, they have to make improvements to the stormwater quality. So we're not really providing any decrease in runoff. We're just providing a form of treatment prior to discharge to the system.
Is this work on basically on gravity, or does it?
Yep.
So there's no electronics, there's no maintenance?
There's maintenance. It'll be maintained. It'll be inspected twice a year. And basically the manufacturer of the unit has specific requirements relative to the sediment within the chambers. When that reaches a certain height, basically those have to be cleaned out. It can be done similar to what you would do with a catch basin. It's no more than going in, cleaning it out, and going on your way. So we do 52 semi-annual inspections for Hess Corporation as far as their stormwater management systems go, and this site would be one of those.
In other words, those basins are on your property?
Correct.
Okay, and you would maintain the maintenance on
The trench drain and the Vortechnics unit, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you. Yeah, I'm familiar with the Vortechnic systems, and often problems with them are related to maintenance. And so as long as you can guarantee us that you will stick to a strict maintenance plan, oftentimes what happens is these systems get, no, they don't get old. They just get, they get filled with sediment, and oftentimes they're not maintained. So what you end up with is basically direct discharge to the stormwater system. And I know that, in fact, Mass DOT doesn't utilize them on their roadways for that reason, because maintenance it's almost impossible in some locations. I understand that on a retail gasoline station that they're much more common than on the Mass DOT roadway system, but it still presents a maintenance problem. And I would like to make sure that in our conditions, now that we're looking for an amendment to a minor amendment, that maintenance is followed accordingly.
Absolutely, and as indicated, we will perform inspections on these units twice a year. Same with the trench drain, and we will abide by the manufacturer's recommendations relative to the treatment and the maintenance of those units. So,
what are the manufacturer's recommendations for?
I believe it's to inspect it twice a year.
No, but for the amount of sediment, what's the amount of sediment accumulation?
It varies from unit to unit.
For this station?
You know what? I don't know. I don't have the information right in front of me, but we can certainly provide that. Again, based on the size of the unit, it's typically dependent on the size of the chamber in each unit and the height of the sediment therein. And this is a small retail gas facility, so you're typically not seeing large amounts of sediment accumulated within these devices. So I can tell you, traditionally with the 52 inspections we do at other locations throughout New England for the Hess Corporation, typically twice a year is way more inspection than what you need, because you're not getting that giant sediment buildup that you might get in a large big box retail parking lot where you're talking acres and acres of impervious area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair.
Member Camerata, put your mic on.
Did you get a written notice from the engineering department on signing off on this project?
I was just looking in the document for that. I'm not sure.
Be happy to provide it.
What's that, sir?
I'd be happy to provide it.
No, I was just curious.
We've been working with Nick very closely over the past 6 months or so.
Yeah, I think it's actually driven more by MS4 permitting than it is by the DOJ order. DOJ order is really sanitary sewer overflows into the storm drain system, which I don't believe is a problem at this site. It's a problem at other sites. Yeah, I don't see anything in the documents from Nick. So at this point, what I had done is I amended the order of conditions referencing the new plan documents, but I think we should put something in there as far as the maintenance and providing documentation to the commission.
Sure.
You know, I think that's where a lot of communities at this time are really lacking, is following up on making sure they're collecting the records, doing inspections and things of that nature. Unfortunately, many municipalities don't have the personnel available to do that.
Absolutely correct.
So do you have a language that we'd like to put as an additional condition? I had copied the original conditions.
I'm comfortable with the manufacturer's recommendations for maintenance.
Okay. So I'll just add condition 40.
I have a question while he's writing that. So in your documents, it said that during high intensity storm events, the system will be bypassed. What's the capacity of this Vortex 1000 that you have? And
It's designed, typically they're designed for the 100-year storm. In this particular instance, the limiting factor is basically the trench drain, because the trench drain can only handle a certain amount of runoff coming across the paved area. But what's ultimately going to happen is in smaller event storms, which are typical types of storms you're going to see, we're going to collect the runoff, be able to pre-treat it before it's discharged into the catch basin within the road. In a larger event storm, basically what you're going to get is, you'll get up to, I believe it's at least a 10-year storm that we can treat with the system the way it is. Anything typically larger than that is just going to sheet flow over the trench drain, but you're going to have already provided that first flush of treatment. So basically anything that's making its way back to where it's going today is going to be, again, quote unquote, clean runoff, because the first flush is already going to have been treated and taken away.
thanks.
Okay, so I added a condition to the conditions. The applicant shall comply with manufacturer's recommendations for maintenance of, you said it was Vortechnics, right?
Correct.
Unit, and submit yearly reports of maintenance activities to the Revere Conservation Commission. Any?
From the engineering office, sign off, is that?
Yeah, he'll just provide that to me. Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to be an issue. So, close public hearing? Well, it's not a public hearing, it's just a vote to amend the conditions, a minor amendment. So, do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Motion by member Vince Camerata. Second by member Savoni. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we'll sign it tonight. I'll make copies. I'll send it to, I've got Jim Howard at Amanda Hess. Is he still?
Yeah, I'll give you my business card. You can
Okay,
send it,
yeah, I'll send it to you.
Hess, it's going to get lost.
Okay,
in the
yep.
big wheel of the corporation.
The other person's going to go down?
I hope so. Thank
There you
you.
go, sir. Signature. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, and I see Rick Salvo has entered the chambers. You all set to go, Rick? Yep. So, motion to open the public hearing for notice of intent, DEP file 061-0645, 17 Noble Street, Daroy Meja, addition to existing single-family home.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Member Ann Raponi. Second by Vice Chair Joseph James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Floor is yours, Rick.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, for the record, Rick Sal with Engineering Alliance, here this evening with Darren Jail, who's the owner of the subject property. He's at Mr. North's intent. Mr. Chairman, I do have the legal ad and the green cards. Do you want to copy of those?
Sir, would you see if that mic is on, please? Hello. Thank you.
It's on now. So, like I said, the whole backyard area is within the limits of the 100-year floodplain, as is the front yard area. I did check the preliminary maps that are due to come out. I think, well, they were dated November of 2013, but I don't think they've yet been issued yet. This floodplain on those preliminary maps is not changing. It's being retained at elevation 6. It's outside of the velocity zone. It appears that the only area that's changing is the velocity zone. The proposal is to construct an addition, as shown on the plans, to the rear of the dwelling. That addition will be constructed to match the existing floor elevation of elevation 10.14. So that's actually the top of foundation, which will end up being the bottom of sills. This whole structure will be up on piles. It'll be pile supported, so it fits within not only the land. Well, there are no regulations to land subject to coastal storms flowage, but in terms of the bordering land subject to flooding, it fits within those performance standards in that there is no obstruction at all for the entrance and exit of floodwaters to be able to flow underneath this particular addition. So there's virtually no impact to the floodplain, but for the supports that support it, that support the addition. The ground levels that exist underneath the addition will maintain the same, so there'll be no change in the lateral extent of floodwaters. It's a fairly simple proposal. We did provide a cross-section just to show you the difference in the existing grade versus the finished floor elevation. And obviously, we'd put up the traditional erosion control, although this is a pretty flat yard area. As you saw, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for erosion. Nonetheless, do the responsible thing and put the hay bales and silt fence around the excavation that'll be done there. That's essentially the proposal. So I guess with that, I turn it back to the Commission for any questions or comments that you have.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments for Mr. Salvo?
I just have one question. At the site visit, we were talking about the driveway, and it was mentioned that there are potentially plans to repave that. Is that, and I don't see that on the plan here. Is that in the plans, or what are you planning to do with the driveway?
The driveway is expected to leave it the way it is for now. Maybe try to do some patching on. And I can take any suggestions or conditions. I can do any way you like it.
You really can't do anything unless you show it on the plans.
No, I'm going to leave it the way it is now. It's only,
So if you change your mind at some point, order, we give you an order today, it's good for 3 years. You could come back and we'd probably just do a minor amendment. Just come with a plan on what you wanted to do. And, you know, as long as you're not putting hard pavement back, the water can't drain, you know, as long as you do something that water can drain, then we'd likely grant you permission to do that.
I understand that. My way is to leave it the way it is now.
Yep.
Yeah, so I said that we can do some changes because I have the visit of you guys the last Saturday, and if there can be any conditions to make it better, I'm listening to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want us to put a condition in now about the driveway so you don't have to come back? I mean, we can, I mean, that would be easier for everybody. I mean, we just recommend using a permeable pavement, we talked about earlier for a different project.
Yep, we could do
Pavers,
that.
bricks, permeable concrete.
Right, so, and I guess if we go that route, and obviously to maintain the existing grading that's there as well.
Yeah.
Right, because the bigger issue is probably not to change the grade so we don't deflect any water that's going in any other directions, even though it'll be a pervious surface.
Exactly.
Yeah, the condition that's already in there, H6, is no part of lot topography within land subject to coastal stone flowage shall be paved with impermeable materials. Or I'll just add, or should a change in grade
Exactly.
occur? Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
Member
Chairman,
Camerata.
on the hay bales, are they there just during the construction or are they going to be permanent?
Nope, just temporary erosion control during construction. The minute the construction's gone, they go away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Do you have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
To close the public hearing and to issue an order of condition by Vice Chair Joseph James. Do I have a second? Member Bluestein, was that you?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Okay. Takes care of that. Okay, so we can go back to request for termination of applicability for 565 Revere Street. Are you here to speak on that? Oh, you're Jorge, right? Yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't recognize you. Mind if we take up Jorge first? So I take it, Member James Savoni.
I was here for his last
Oh, okay. All right, his memory's better than mine, my short-term memory. Okay, so why don't we go right to that, the minor amendment DEP file 0610644, and take the mic, Jorge.
My name is Jorge Ajub. I am the Department of Conservation and Recreation Coastal Ecologist, and I am the filing manager for the operations and maintenance plan for Revere and Shore Beach.
And just explain while you're here the whole thing with...
So we're here today because we needed to incorporate the recommendations provided by the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, since Revere Beach lies within priority habitat of the nesting of the piping plovers, which is a protected species. So we're here today to incorporate the comments provided by the Natural Heritage and within the conditions of the order of conditions.
And the comments that were provided by letter March 27, 2014, some 3 weeks after we had our public hearing, was that based on a review of the information provided and the information contained in that database, The Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program has determined that this project as currently proposed must be conditioned in order to avoid adverse effects to the resource area habitats of state-listed wildlife species 310 CMR 10.37 and to avoid a prohibited take of state-listed species 321 CMR 10.18 subparagraph 2A. The following conditions must be met. Operations and maintenance plan outlines measures to protect state-listed shorebirds. All measures must be adhered to unless otherwise conditioned herein. On or before April 1st each year, all areas of suitable piping plover nesting habitat shall be delineated with symbolic fencing and warning signs. All vehicular access, including vehicles used for beach raking, transporting, and bulldozing sand and trash removal, shall be prohibited inside fenced areas. These areas remain fenced as long as viable eggs, unfledged chicks, or territorial or courting piping plovers are present. Number 3, any mechanized equipment on the beach shall not travel within 100 yards of unfledged piping plover chicks unless said equipment is guided by a qualified shorebird monitor as determined by NHESP, who has first determined the location of all unfledged chicks. Number 4, sand associated with the reclamation of sand from Revere Beach, number 11 of the O&M plan, shall not be placed within established symbolic fencing or within 50 yards of nests, scrapes, or unfledged chicks. Provided the above noted conditions are included in any final approving order of conditions and there are no changes to the project plans, this project will not result in an adverse impact to the resource area habitat of state-listed wildlife species and will not result in a prohibited take of state-listed species. We ask that the Conservation Commission send a copy of the final order of conditions approving or denying the project to the NHESP simultaneous with the applicant. So I simply took those 4 items, modified the order we gave before, added them in, so now it's compliant. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, these are ambiguous conditions because it says you have to put up fencing around all suitable nesting habitat areas and then leave it up if there's eggs on fledged chicks, but when can you take it down?
Okay. So what happens is we're supposed to protect when the piping plovers are showing nesting behavior, and that begins with what we call a scrape. So whenever we see the piping plovers scraping on the sand, that is nesting behavior. So once that takes place, we go in and put the symbolic fencing. Once the piping plovers lay a 4 eggs nest, so which is called full clutch, it takes 26 days for those eggs to hatch. And it will take about another 35 days to the chicks to be full grown and they can fledge out the beach. Currently, right now, we have 8 pairs of piping plovers at Revere Beach nesting. 6 are in a full clutch already. So the other 2 should be laying down their eggs within the next probably 3 or 4 days. So if there's no disturbance to the nesting by people, by ducks, since they don't have natural predators at Revere, again, if everything is with no disturbance, we should be putting down potentially the fence down by July 1st.
Okay, so I guess my question is that...
Daniel wasn't here for the March meeting.
Right, absolutely. I'll be happy to clarify.
No, I'm sorry that I missed that meeting. Mm-hmm. My question is that the way it's worded, it says all suitable nesting habitat. So that would be any sandy beach, correct?
Right, that's the way then is... what that means is that the piping plovers choose their place to nest. So basically the entire beach is suitable habitat, right. But we don't have to put symbolic fencing in the entire beach.
Okay. It just the way this is worded, someone could argue that the whole beach has to be fenced until.
Right. That goes. Yeah. I
so
understand.
that's why I was confused, and I mean I'm not going to come after you and enforce that, but if NHESP interprets it that way because they wrote it, I don't know. I would be up for making that wording a little bit more clear, but if you feel comfortable with that, then it's fine with me.
I think
Yeah.
so. This is kind of the same kind of conditions that are provided for DCR on, throughout the entire state. The entire state, and pretty much is basically the wording that they have to use based on the legal, they have. Again, all Revere Beach is potentially nesting habitat, but we are only supposed to put symbolic fencing on where the nesting,
On the scrapes.
the scrapes,
Okay.
or the actual nest, which is basically, according to the regulations, is 50 yards radius around the nest.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
about
The route this took back to us was DEP, based on the letter from Natural Heritage, filed an appeal. And they call me up, and they say, you put the conditions, you do an amendment, minor amendment they agreed to, and you put the conditions in the order, reissue the order, we won't go through with the appeal.
Exactly, and when I have the conversation also with DEP and with Natural Heritage, basically Natural Heritage is, because the way I designed the OMP is incorporating the recommendations for the protection. Basically they said, well, most of these things are already outlined in the OMP, but we do have to make our word, with our language specifically.
Sure.
So,
all right, whatever makes them
So
happy.
they issue a letter on, what did I say, it was March 27th?
March 27, yes.
Okay, we have 21 days from the filing to act. So I figure what date the filing I probably have in the documents here. So we could have turned them down, then we would have been all set. Or we could have included their conditions, which we didn't know about, because I didn't receive anything in a timely manner from them. So sort of a catch-22.
Yeah.
That brings them
So
back.
it is the position of DEP that once we incorporate these recommendations within the order, they're just going to withdraw the appeal, and everything will continue.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman.
Member
Sir,
Camerata?
the fines are pretty high. Have any violations been created down there since these fines have been in order?
Any violations this year?
Yes. Any on record that violations were created?
No, we haven't had any acts of vandalism so far this year.
Okay.
So we're in good track. We hope that it remains like that. We are really hoping that both the community and the visitors of Revere Beach, because it's used not only by residents but also for visitors, are now on board with us, and they can understand that if we protect the piping blowers earlier in the season, they can finalize their nesting earlier, and then we'll have the warmest part of the summer. They'll be gone by then.
Member Savoni?
Yeah, thank you. It's great news to hear that there are so many successful nests occurring right now, because that's the goal, is to have them nest early in the season, not get disturbed, and then the eggs will hatch, and then they'll be gone, and some of the abutters will be happy to know that. But one of the questions I had was, it seems some of these amendments don't seem much different from the original O&M plan. Can you just explain specifically what these amendment requirements are related to? Because it seems like these are all conditions that were in the original O&M plan.
Yeah, that's the conversation I have with them. They pretty much highlight that I already have incorporated most of them. One of the differences that we were not as specific about not putting sand, if we do reclamation of sand, inside the symbolic fencing area, for example. That's a difference in there that I can...
Right, and that was basically, you probably assumed that was understood that would not...
Right, we would never done it that way, but it was not worded within the OMP, so therefore they recommend to incorporate it, just to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
How does the pairing this year compare with previous years?
Right now, this year we have 8 pairs. Last season we had 10. So as is now, we have 2 pairs less than the previous season. What we have right now in terms of the symbolic fence, at the beginning, it is a little dynamic because the birds, they can create a scraping here and they move 200 yards down the beach. So once they settle their nest, then we pretty much can configure the symbolic fence to what the final stage is going to be during that nesting process, unless the nest fail and then they will reattempt to nest again, maybe in the same area, vicinity, or within another area on the beach, which is why we encourage everybody to help us protect them.
Okay, great.
I have a
Anything else?
question. Yeah, I just want to ask you. I'm not up on this. Do they have to have dune grass in order to nest, or can they just nest on the sand?
No, they actually prefer the clear nest. Piping plovers normally don't nest if there's any more than 25% vegetation coverage. So wherever it is dune grass, they normally tend to be less nesting. However, there's a couple of pairs that seems to be recurrent every year that they like the dune cells that we have out there in Revere. But typically, piping plovers prefer more open area.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It helps them. It's more camouflage.
Okay.
I just have one question too.
Member Raponi, I think would like to say something.
Thank you, Andy. I just had a question on signage. Do you have any signage, or will you have any signage to let the people know that they cannot travel within the 100 yards? I know you're in charge of that, but are you going to provide any signage for that condition?
Every symbolic fencing all around it, it's surrounded by signage in all different angles on the beach.
Thank you. I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more comment just for the benefit of Daniel and anyone else who wasn't here for the original DCR presentation for the O&M plan. One of the reasons why Revere Beach happens to be one of the most successful hatching rates, I don't know what terminology. Productivity rates it's the most successful in the entire state, which really says something about the topography and the geomorphology of Revere Beach. The reason, I think, partly is because the intertidal zone in Revere Beach is unlike many beaches, because you have a sandy portion further away from the tide, and you have a large intertidal zone, and that's what the hatchlings feed on. They feed on small invertebrates within that intertidal zone. So knowing the profile of Revere Beach, it's ideal. Just so happens to be it's an urban beach, but they happen to have the highest success rate for this not only state listed endangered species, but it's a federally listed endangered species, which carries much more weight. It's the best in the entire state of Massachusetts.
In addition to that, another important reason is because there are no natural predators that hatch either on the eggs or on the chicks, other than seagulls, which could go for the little chicks. But other areas where we have more wild lines behind it, we get skunks and raccoons that go dig out the eggs, and we get owls that could go out and stuff.
And the other important thing is that, some of the abutters, feel as if the beach is being taken away from them and they don't have access to the beach, which is a concern that, we all care about. But the important thing that people need to know is if they don't disturb them. I think people who may be against, piping plovers taking over Revere Beach and taking over some property that they're paying high taxes on with beachfront property, if the less the piping plovers are disturbed, or plovers, as your coworker referred to them as, which I understood was the correct pronunciation. If the less you disturb them, the more likely they are to go through the hatching process and leave. If there's any kind of disturbance through storms or otherwise, then they're going to come back and they're going to keep trying to nest in the same locations and delay that whole hatching process.
Member Boosty? Member Camarada?
Yeah, just one more question. Are you people prepared for the climate change?
Are we preparing for the climate change?
Yeah.
That's one consideration that all of our state and federal agencies are considering. As the ocean sea level tends to rise, there is a shortage on the beach. But there's something that's being discussed.
Okay.
in order for management purposes moving forward.
Been a lot of talk about the climate change, right?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a question. So, based on the timing mentioned in the conditions with nesting starting in early April, currently the rule on the beach is no dogs starting May 1st. Is that something that's being considered to sort of move that limitation on dog use of the beach up earlier?
Yes, DCR right now is currently working and is almost ready to come out for public discussion. We're going to have the new statewide regulations, which incorporate, the beach state parks, and that date is going to be moved down to April 1st with no dogs allowed on the beach. It's not only because of the birds, but because of many other things and many other reasons. Plus, they want to make it consistent throughout the entire state, of course.
Andy.
Yes, Member Raponi.
Thank you. Member Danny made an excellent point when he mentioned the May 1st and the April 1st. It would be a good idea to have the dog restrictions for April 1st and, May 1st. And very good point, Danny. I have to compliment you. And you are going to make it uniform. It will be for dogs and et cetera, effective April 1st. Is that accurate?
Yes, it will be not only for dogs but all pets starting April 1st, but that is in the process right now on DCR.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay, motion to close. Well, it's not a public hearing, it's just a minor amendment. Motion to issue a amended order of conditions.
I make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Dan Bluestein made a motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Okay, Jorge. Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Vincent. Okay, before we take up 565 Revere Street, Michael Kessman from City's Planning Department, he's actually new in the position as of January. He's working on the position that I worked in when I first came to work for the city in October 1979. And the gentleman who took over from me, John Cherian, retired at the end of last year, so now Michael's here. And he's been saddled with a water main project on Naples Road. Thanks, Michael. So Michael's here to ask the indulgence of the commission in order to get this project underway, which the city's contracted for. So make sure the mic's on. I think it's on. And introduce yourself and then explain the project, Michael, if you would.
Sure. My name is Michael Kessman. I am the project engineer here with the City of Revere, in the Department of Planning and Community Development. I started this position about the middle of January of this year, and one of the directives I was given was to oversee construction of contract 2013-1003, which calls for the replacement of several water mains throughout the city of Revere. One of the water mains that was scoped for replacement under that contract is the Naples Road water main, the limits of which are from Round Traffic Circle and the Squire Road Broadway intersection east over to Union Street. The existing main goes beneath Naples Road, a portion of which was never paved and exists as a paper road. The city owns a right-of-way through that paper road, and there exists a 6-inch water main as well as existing sewer service. The reason for the replacement of the main is because it's been subject to breaks in the area in the last several years, so they want to go in, upgrade the pipe, and take care of all of those problems. Basically, we're going to be taking out the old pipe, putting in the new pipe in its existing condition. We are not going to be adding any impervious area. We're not going to be filling it all. And the reason that I'm here today to present to you how we're going to manage a little portion of the construction that appears to go through the wetlands. The plan that you're looking at, I've compiled off of Revere GIS data and an on-the-ground survey which was completed in 1999 by PJF and Associates of Medford, Mass., which was a site plan for the development of the car wash. You can see the wetland flags noted on there, W1 through W11, so those were located in 1999, and I believe that they're still pretty much in the same location. I have another wetland line shown on here that is GIS data, and then I've assumed a little bit of wetland area kind of on the backside of Maple Road there. So in talking with the contractor about getting this work done, he is confident that he can complete the work in a 20-foot wide construction corridor. We're going to propose to replace one length of pipe at a time to limit the amount of excavated material that will be stockpiled in the area. We're going to be installing a ductile iron main, and we're proposing to wrap that main in a polyethylene sleeve to prevent corrosion from salt water and other corrosive elements that exist in the ground. And I'm showing hay bales and silt fence here on the plan as erosion control, but I would like to mention that the contractor has asked me to seek approval for log wattles opposed to a hay bale and silt fence. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with log wattles. They're also referred to as coir logs. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. So he wanted to see if we could do... Hello? Oh.
There you go.
Hi. So the contractor wants me to see if you guys will approve the use of coir logs opposed to a silt fence and hay bale over there. That's the least of my concerns, really. I just want to make sure you guys are on board with allowing the city to maintain its water system in this area, even though it is passing through the wetland.
So ideally, it would have been enough time to file a notice of intent and do that. But there are provisions under Chapter 131, Section 40 for maintenance activities of water transmission lines. So when Michael contacted me about it, I said, come before the commission, we'll talk about it, and then we'll leave it to decision to the Conservation Commission to make a determination whether to allow the work to go forward without a formal filing. What was the name of the barrier that you used, Michael, again?
The name of the what?
The erosion control.
They're called coir logs or log wattles, and they're basically...
Okay, I know what you're
salt
talking
that's
about.
filled with
Yes, I didn't
straw.
know what the formal name of
They're
them
easier
was.
for the contractor to install. It comes in a long roll, and he just can roll it out and put stakes through it. It's just a little easier for these guys to handle compared to silt fence and hay bale.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the work is occurring in a jurisdictional area. There's only one small part behind the car wash on American Legion Highway that's actually in a wetland.
Yeah, the only problem they have with that type of erosion control sometimes is that runoff can get under them if they're not staked in well enough. So, but yeah, that's very commonly used erosion control, BMP.
Question?
Yep, Member Valley?
How do you maintain the water when you're doing the work? Do you have a...
We're going to do a bypass system that's going to provide temporary water service to the affected residents and businesses. There is a fire hydrant at the end of a Bruzy Road, and I believe that is going to be the source for the temporary bypass system. That bypass system will run over land also through the marsh area to connect into the businesses. I know the car wash itself, their service comes off of a Bruzy Road, so we don't have to worry about their water service. But there are several other businesses and residences in the area, and there really aren't a lot of fire hydrants to source the temporary supply from, which is why we're going to grab the one on Abruzzi. So in addition to the work through the corridor, we will probably also have an above ground plastic pipe just running over land.
You don't know how old that water main is, do you?
I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find any records. I know it was cleaned and lined in the 70s based on a plan that I found.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, you know, it was cleaned
When
and
Somerville Engineering did the
Yeah.
plan for cleaning and lining.
I found, well, actually, the limit of that ended on Broadway. So this portion was left out of that cleaning and lining.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's one of the reasons why they want to address this specific pipe, because it hasn't been addressed in so many years, but I'm not sure of its.
Yeah, I thought I had a memory of the city doing work in the early 80s, because I thought it was dead-ended, and connected it through the predecessor agency, the Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Environmental Quality Engineering, had a water system program. So a lot of work was done through force accounts with city forces. And I thought that was one of the areas, but I could be wrong.
Is there an erosion control plan, or are we just going to issue conditions related to erosion control?
I have some erosion controls shown on this plan in the area of the work through the wetlands.
Yeah, I'm talking about the timeliness of monitoring the erosion control BMPs. Is that going to be done on a daily basis, weekly basis?
The portion of work right here is going to literally take these guys maybe 2 or 3 days to complete.
Okay.
It's going to be really quick. It's going to be a little bit slower leading up from Brown Circle to the area that we're concerned with, but it's only 175 feet, and these guys, for instance, installed about 400 feet today over on Joey Road. It will be a little bit difficult for them in the narrow corridor in terms of the equipment that we allow them to use. So it might take them maybe 2 or 3 days to get the whole thing done, depending on what equipment we allow into the corridor.
Who's doing the work?
It's R&D Site Development.
Okay, I'm not familiar with them.
They've been pretty good so far. They've been really responsive to all my requests.
Okay,
for
good.
the most part, considering the contract.
So the erosion control, the works takes about 3 days to complete, but
Yeah,
the erosion controls are installed prior to the work starting, and I guess you probably be evaluating the erosion controls at the end of each day.
I have a note written in that the erosion controls will remain in place until such time that the commission is satisfied with the reestablishment of the vegetation, which another thing I'm not sure of what kind of measures we'll have to take for restoration in that area. I don't know if the natural vegetation will spread quickly.
It will spread quickly.
Because it's almost like weeds back there, right? So what I was going to have them do, they're going to trench in the middle of this corridor. I was going to have them cast off their excavated material on the upstream side, and any brush or debris that they have to remove in order to dig the trench, I was going to have them stockpile on the downstream side. And then I would direct them after the work is done to take that stockpiled kind of brush, you know, whatever weeds and small trees they have to take down, and put that back on top of the trench and kind of maybe, you know, beat it in by hand to further aid in erosion control until vegetation is reestablished. But if the commission would like to see any kind of plantings take place or anything like that, I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, I think what we're going to need to do in this case is give an emergency certification to the work, and then you're going to have to follow up on a notice of intent for the next meeting.
Okay.
I think that's the best course of action to take.
Yeah, I'm not really. Is it mostly Phragmites down there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. The car wash on American Legion Highway, if you just pull in, you can, or the oil change place, you pull in there, you'll see it's all Phragmites. Yeah, I don't think it gets into the actual live salt marsh at all. I think it's all brackish, transitional land.
Yeah, but I think I agree with the plan. I think it's important to have some sort of follow-up with the erosion control and...
Yep.
And I also took your advice and went down there and looked at high tide shortly after I first contacted you, and the high tide water was not in the area that we were actually working with, and it falls off rather quickly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It really filled land. You know, it used to be, I'm sure, tidal. It was tidal at least as far as Beach Street and Rose Street, I think off of Broadway at one point in the past.
It's actually kind of interesting because there are a bunch of privately owned lots on the other side of the public way.
By the Festus.
Our GIS maps show all these lots just sitting there. In
Yeah,
the
we've been
marshland.
giving, some of that has been given to the commission for care and control. I don't know if GIS has been updated with all that.
Probably not.
Although I think they did GIS a few years ago, so it probably, maybe 2010, so probably picked up some of it. Okay, so what we'll do is when you're about to start that section of the work, call me, and I'll give you the emergency order at that time. And then start preparing a notice of intent for a June meeting. Yeah, you can do emergency and then follow it after the fact with the notice of intent. So that way you don't run into a contractual difficulty with R&D.
All right, so I'll plan on coming back here for the June meeting with
In June meeting.
a full-blown notice of intent.
Yeah. So if you need any assistance with the notice, just contact me.
Thank you. And just to recap, will log wattles or coir logs be acceptable
Yeah,
erosion
I
control
think they're
measures in this
acceptable.
case?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm hoping that the contractor isn't actually going to charge us any extra to do this work. He's been really good so far, and the easier I make it for him, hopefully he won't hit me with a change order and increase the cost of the project. So I think if I go back to him and say he can use...
There's no
coir
erosion
logs.
controls in the project specification?
There are not.
Okay, so going forward, I think you're going to need that for most of the stuff you're doing in Revere, unless you're really up in this section of the city. But even that should still have some sort of erosion controls on any place that isn't hard pavement.
I agree. And in my defense, I did not put this contract together. It was in place
fully
before
understand,
I got
Michael.
here. But in the future, when I put contracts out, I will be including erosion controls and addressing issues of this nature up front, so that I will be coming for an emergency
Good.
order.
All right, so we're not even going to take a vote. Like I said, just call me when they're ready to start.
Thank
and we'll
you.
issue an emergency order. That's agreed with the commission. All right, thanks, Michael.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice night.
Yep. Okay, so the last item that there's two more items. I thought Steve Matarano would be here, but I know he was tied up the same meeting I was tied up before this. We'll bring up 565 Revere Street, request determination of applicability. I know it's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting, and I know Daniel had some questions on it.
Well, so Diamond Creek, which runs right behind there.
Yes.
I mean, I think we need to have some sort of conditions.
Okay.
Whether it's a negative RDA with conditions, that's probably sufficient. But it's the creek that drains between two wetland areas. So I think we need erosion control.
Okay.
We could require a notice of intent, but I don't know if that's necessary.
Yeah, what they tell me they're going to do is take the building down. There's foundation inside on the hill portion, the Revere Street portion. It's at grade on the rest of the site. So they'll leave one foundation wall supporting Revere Street and bring the rest of it down to just the slab that's there.
Yeah, I just want to see some erosion control on the stream side of the stream and some regulation about construction vehicles, checking for oil leaks, stuff like that.
Okay.
Sounds like we might need a notice of intent. What's your opinion?
I think an determination of applicability is sufficient on it. Yeah, for what they're doing, really not disturbing the ground. And I know the city, speaking with the building inspector, has declared it a hazardous building and is really anxious to get it down. The only foundation wall is on the Revere Street side where it goes up the slope. Okay. Because you can walk in here at a higher elevation, you actually walk in. Yeah. Yeah. You've been there, right? Yes. Yeah, in fact, he had sent me an email what they were doing. Okay, so it would be a negative determination. So we'll do the work described in the request is within an area subject to protection under the Act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent. So we need erosion controls. And spill containment required.
Yeah,
Yes, proper handling of building materials.
In their WPA Form 1, they say where they're taking it to Patriot Waste in Rhode Island. But, so I think they're aware, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he's not here. So
Andy,
we have a...
That building's been there, I can remember when I was a kid, so there must be something that has material inside of it. Has to be.
Why do you say there has to be, Joe?
Because in those days they used insulation. It was not,
Asbestos.
it wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm just wondering what they're going to do about that.
Yeah, they'll have to abate it, I'm sure, before they start demolition.
They identified the place where they're going to take all the materials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there was no mention of any hazardous materials.
Okay.
So I don't know. And yeah, it looks like it was built in 1930.
Yeah, they used asbestos on the 30s. We used to play with the stuff. Okay. Why is it taken care of?
Conservation Commission, we're not really.
Yeah, there's separate regulations
yeah,
that cover that. So do I have a motion to issue a negative?
Yes, you do. I make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Andy, did we
Vote
do
in the affirmative. Excuse me?
Did we do Short Beach already? We had something with Short Beach? Did we work?
That we did that. That was Gentleman Jorge talking about the piping plovers. Short Beach and Revere Beach. So the only thing left is a certificate of compliance for 71 North Shore Road. Let's look at this signed. We did a site visit there on Saturday. Did a nice job restoring the revetment around 71 North Shore Road. Yeah, he still has plans for some development. Vincent? Signature? So, simple motion to issue the order of conditions.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Daniel Bluestein, second by Vice Chair Joseph James. All those in favor? Aye. Voted. Beach. Here you go, Vincent. That's for 71 North Shore Road. All right, that's it. Any comments or questions? Adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second? All those in favor? So voted.